Imagine this. It's the early 2000s, and India sets itself an absolutely massive goal to double its share of global trade in just 5 years. That's a huge ambition, right? Well, the plan to get there was just as bold. Today, we're going to break down the foreign trade policy of 2004 to 2009. Think of it as the blueprint that was designed to completely change India's role in the world economy. Now, to really get why this policy was such a big deal, we need to wind the clock back a bit to the early 2000s. This was a time of incredible optimism and change. The ambition for India wasn't just about, being a part of world trade anymore. It was about becoming a real, powerful player on the global stage. And at the very heart of this new ambition was this one giant question. How on earth does a country like India, with all its complexities, actually double its slice of the global trade pie in just 5 years? I mean, this wasn't just some target on a document. It was a challenge that forced a total rethink of how India saw its place in the world. But here's the really smart part. This was never just about the numbers. The real goal was to use foreign trade as a powerful engine for the whole country's development. Ultimately, it was all about boosting the economy and, crucially, creating jobs, especially in smaller towns and rural areas. So how were they planning to pull this off? Well, with a detailed 5-year plan, the Foreign Trade Policy of 2004 to 2009. This document was the master plan, the blueprint, designed to make that huge ambition a reality. So what exactly is a foreign trade policy? Well, the simplest way to think about it is as the country's official playbook for international business. It lays out all the rules of the game for imports and exports, and it's especially focused on one thing: helping our nation's businesses sell more of their products to the rest of the world. And this particular policy was built on two crystal clear objectives. First, the big headline-grabbing one: double India's share of global trade. But just as important was the second goal: making sure that all this growth actually translated into real jobs and better lives for people across India. It was a really powerful mix of global goals and local benefits. Okay, so having big goals is great, but achieving them is a whole other story. So what was the secret sauce? Let's take a look at the core strategies, the big ideas that drove this entire policy. The very first strategy was a complete game changer. It was all about moving away from a system of tight controls and complicated restrictions. The idea was to create an environment of trust and transparency, to basically get out of the way and empower the natural entrepreneurial spirit of India's business community. The second strategy was all about making things simple, cutting through all the red tape. The focus was on making it easier, faster, and cheaper for businesses to export and import. The goal was to simplify all the complicated procedures, cut down on paperwork, and lower the costs that can sometimes hold back even the best companies. And the third key strategy? This one was all about people. It was about making sure the benefits of trade reached every corner of the country. The plan was to identify and support specific industries that had a ton of potential to create jobs, especially in the places that needed them the most. So how did the policy actually put these strategies into action? Well, it used a bunch of really powerful tools and specific initiatives to fire up India's export engine. Let's dig into a couple of the most important ones. And right here is where you see that third strategy, that focus on people, really come alive. The policy didn't just talk about jobs. It actively targeted sectors with huge employment potential, like agriculture, handlooms, and handicrafts. For farmers, a special scheme helped boost exports. For artisans, they made it cheaper to import key materials. It was very practical, targeted support. Another really clever tool was the Special Economic Zone, or SEZ. Just think of it like a special duty-free area. For all trade purposes, an SEZ is treated almost like it's a foreign country that just happens to be located inside India. It creates a super efficient environment built for one thing: maximizing exports. And here's what that actually means. If you're a business operating in the rest of India, what's called the domestic tariff area, you're playing by the normal set of rules. But inside an SEZ, the game is totally different. We're talking minimal taxes, simplified rules, a huge incentive for companies to build world-class factories focused purely on exporting. But the policy wasn't just about creating special zones. It was also about celebrating and rewarding the companies that were already doing a fantastic job. And that's where the Star Export House scheme came in. This was a brilliant system for recognizing and empowering the country's most successful exporters. This table basically shows you the ladder to becoming an export superstar.
To get a 1-star rating, a company had to hit an export target of 15 crore rupees. And to get to the very top, the 5-star level, that number jumped to a staggering 5,000 crores. It created a really clear path for businesses to grow and a powerful reason to aim high.
So what was the point of being a star? Well, it meant real benefits that made business faster, easier, and cheaper. Star export houses got their goods cleared through customs way faster, which connects right back to that strategy of trust. They didn't have to provide costly bank guarantees, which freed up money to grow the business. The message was clear. If you perform well, we will help you perform even better.
So when you put it all together, what do you get? When you look at the big picture, the strategies, the special zones, the star ratings, what you start to see is a whole new way of thinking about trade and a completely different role for the government in that process.
And if you really want to understand the heart and soul of this policy, all you have to do is read this one sentence from its introduction. Trade is not an end in itself, but a means to economic growth and national development. That was it. That was the guiding principle for everything. And that, really, is the lasting impact of the 2004-2009 foreign trade policy. It was a major turning point. It marked a huge shift away from a government that tries to control everything to a government that helps, that facilitates, and that acts as a true partner to its businesses.
This policy offered a really powerful blueprint for its time. But it also leaves us with a question that's just as important today as it was back then. What does it really take to build a global business powerhouse? And what lessons can we still learn from this amazing chapter in India's economic story? It's definitely something to think about.